Welcome into Teal The Show. This is a far cry from a Victory Monday kind of show. I'm Jamal St. Cyr alongside Frank Frangie. Frank, that was not the game that any of us were expecting to see from the Jaguars on Sunday.
Yeah, but I really believe this, Jamal. Every game, every season, most teams lay an egg somewhere along the line. We talked about it. It's a long year, man. It starts around Labor Day. It ends around Valentine's Day. There's going to be ebbs and flows and highs and lows. Look, they played lousy. They admitted they played lousy. Trevor Lawrence said it's probably the worst game he's ever played. He didn't play well. You thought, I wouldn't even look at the tape of this one. I would bury the tape and get on to the next one. You played a lousy game. You lost the game. You move on. You're still 6-3.
Well, they have a lot of things that they have to figure out before they can quite flush the tape, even though they do want to flush it at least by Wednesday for sure. All right, let's try and work through this bit by bit. The defense struggled early, but kind of shored up along the way, so we don't want to point too many fingers at them, even if they did give up that many points. It looks bad, but the offense wasn't doing them any favors. We got to start with the offense. Frank, they just put up 3. That is far below the standard of expectation when it comes to that talented group.
And honestly, Jamal, they looked out of sync from the get-go, didn't they? Number one, they didn't block, so I don't think Trevor ever had a clean pocket. When he did have some time, he couldn't find anybody. I'm not sure anybody was open. They were discombobulated from the start. You could even see, I felt an uneasiness from Trevor the minute the game started. It just never felt like there's a rhythm. When the offense is working, you settle into a rhythm. There's protection. Your quarterback sits in and goes through progression. Somebody comes open. You make the throw. It never felt like that. It was just one of those games that I thought he was out of sorts. I thought the offensive line was out of sorts. The 49ers front, I thought, had its way with the Jaguars front, and I thought that had a lot to do with them never really finding a rhythm offensively.
Yeah, just 3 points is a tough score to stomach, especially when that's the second time at home at the bank this year that they haven't scored a touchdown in front of the home fans. Got to be better than that. I've really been struggling to wrap my head around it, Frank. You have an offense that has Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Calvin Ridley, Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, and somehow this group of talented players is struggling to score touchdowns. It just doesn't compute for me.
Yeah, I think there's a few things. Again, don't overthink it. Sometimes you play lousy. I thought more than anything else, they played a really bad game. It wasn't all that unlike the Texans game where they played a really bad game. I think that was part of it. The other part, San Francisco is very good. San Francisco was a desperate football team. They had lost 3 in a row. They had a Super Bowl expectation. And all of a sudden, people thought maybe they weren't as good. They outplayed the Jags. I think that was part of it. I think there's some other things, though, Jamal, to your point. They missed Zay Jones. I don't think there's any question they missed Zay Jones. He's the final piece. I think Calvin Ridley's better when he's out there because you can't bracket him. I think Zay's a deep threat. They don't have a lot of that. Ridley is one. So I think they really miss Zay Jones. Walker Little was playing left guard for only the second time, and the first time it lasted about 10 plays. So I think there was a lot of newness. I'm not making excuses. I'm just explaining to you why I think it happened. But what overrides all that is sometimes you have a game where you play badly. The golfer that usually shoots 82, every now and then he's going to shoot 100. It's just sometimes it all gets away from you. Now, having said that, I know we'll talk about this later on until the show and later in the week as well. That makes this week's game against Tennessee far more critical because you can't have another one, but I think they just laid an egg. It was one of those games.
It was just one of those days, and other teams around the league have had similar kind of days. The Miami Dolphins have had games like that. The Buffalo Bills have had games like that. The Kansas City Chiefs even had a rough game where they just kind of laid the egg. So the Jaguars are not the first team, definitely won't be the last team around the league to have just one of those head-scratching kind of days. But I think Frank kind of teased it the best. We're going to have to start looking ahead to why that Titans game is important. We'll do that right around this break after Teal The Show returns. Welcome back here into Teal The Show. All right, we got to kind of talk big picture for the Jaguars. This loss kind of hurt for a lot of reasons. The team had won 5 games in a row. They were at home at the bank. They've had 3 losses this year, though, so not huge red flag there, even if all 3 of them have come in front of the home fans at the bank, which is never great. But that loss makes this division race that much tighter. The Texans are, like, right behind the Jaguars, Frank. The Jags don't have a whole lot of breathing room at this point.
No question. The Texans look like they're pretty good, and they won at Cincinnati, and they were very impressive in doing it. That's the game that got everybody's attention. But for the here and now, the Jags need to worry about this game. They play the Titans. The Titans are a team struggling a little bit. They found their quarterback, but he's a young quarterback. Jags have to win this game, Jamal. I think, again, I'm not overreacting to the 49ers game. It's one game. You play a bad game. You played a really good team. You're still 6-3. But because you lost again at home, you want to start playing better at home. This is the last home game before you go back on the road. It's a divisional team. You want to stay in first place. What I thought the 49ers loss did, and the way they lost it, is it heightens the intensity and importance of this Titans game. What you cannot do now is lose again, and all of a sudden you're tied, and you got to go play Houston a week later on the road. So really important game now against the Tennessee Titans. I think it's the most important game of the year, given what's happened to this point.
Yeah, definitely a big game this week, and what makes this game tough to figure out at this point is that it is at home at the bank. I asked Doug Peterson today if he knew why the team has been having these struggles at home, and he said he can't really put his finger on it.
I wish I could honestly answer that question. It's the darndest thing. You know, you're in front of your crowd and fans, and you're at home, and you know, we've done it 3 times now this year where we haven't played our best. This is what's crazy, you know. We blocked the wrong guy. We had a false start. We had a missed signal on the screen on the second possession, okay? And then we ended up, we had a sack, we punt on the third series. Fourth series, we had a delay a game, a fumble, or a sack fumble, okay? The fifth series, we finally got it together, and we went down and got a field goal. But why has it got to take us to the fifth series to get it going? That's offensively, you know? So it's nothing that really... It's everything we can control.
You know, Frank, when it's just one of those things, it just seems like the team is different when they're on the road. And when you're at home, that's when you're supposed to be at your best. It's your environment, your fans, your field. But right now, those pieces just aren't coming together for this team.
Yeah, you're right. But again, and maybe I'm underthinking it. I tell people not to overthink, Jamal. Maybe I'm underthinking it. I don't know that the venue affected the loss. I don't know that I feel like if they'd have been playing this game in San Francisco, they would have played better. I don't know if that it works that way. I just think they played badly in the game. And now it turns out 2 of the games they played badly were here. I understand that. But I think more than anything else, this was a game they didn't manage coming off the off week nearly as well as the 49ers did. Again, if you want to judge them at home and how they play at home and want to look at the math in the division, watch this next game, because now the margin of error is gone now. If you lose again this week, then you're probably going to be tied with the Texans, and you have to go there. So that's the significance of this. But I kind of agree with Doug. It's hard to put a finger on why you're losing at home and winning on the road. I just think some weeks you play better than other weeks. I really do.
Now, this is going to be a big opportunity for Trevor Lawrence to have a bounce back. He described Sunday's game as maybe the worst game of his career. Doug Peterson said today that with a young quarterback like that, he just has to talk with him, and it's good that Trevor is already owning it for the mistakes that he made out on the field.
Well, you know, the fact that he acknowledges that's enough, really. I just can keep encouraging him. You know, we have the confidence in him. You know, we're not doubting anything as a staff. None of that kind of stuff takes place, and you know, he's the type of guy that'll get a lot of this, you know, fixed, and he'll be a part of the reason why, you know, we have success moving forward.
You know, speaking of that overreaction, Frank, I know a lot of people are quick to press that panic button when they see the turnovers out on the field, and then you've got Richard Sherman, who is clearly not a Trevor Lawrence fan, who's quick to chime in and say, "I told you so" after the game. But the team's not pressing the panic button, and neither should everybody else.
No, that's right. And as much as I say don't overreact, and nobody should panic, but you got to fix the problems. There are problems. When you lose 34-3, you're doing some things badly. I think Trevor's got to play better. I think he said that. 9 touchdowns and 6 picks. That's not where anybody thought he would be 9 games into the season. He would tell you that as well. But I also think there's protection issues, Jamal. I think he rarely has a clean pocket. I'm not saying never, but I'm saying he rarely has a clean pocket. Brock Purdy had clean pockets all day yesterday, and I thought that was a big part of the win for the 49ers. The line's got to play better. Guys got to get open. I think it sure seemed like there were more players open when Zay Jones was on the field, didn't it? So I think players have to get open. The line's got to protect. That's what they've got to do. I think the play calling's okay. I don't think it's a play calling issue. I think they've got to block a little bit better, and I think Trevor's got to play better. Trevor almost seems panicky. Your quarterback can't panic. I thought a few times he's got to take care of the ball. I thought the interception that went off of Bigsby's hands was a little bit of a panic. It was a 3rd and short. They didn't feel like they could run it, so he got flushed a little bit. Then all of a sudden the play was breaking down. down, and then he fired a fastball off of Bigsby's hands. I thought that was a little bit of a panic from a quarterback in Trevor Lawrence who doesn't panic very often. Calm down, slow down. Don't let the game get sped up for you, and play it at the right speed. I think that's important, and that'll be an important message going into the Titans game.
We'll see if he can do that going into that next game. That is another home game at the bank this week, so it is a big one. All right, Frank, on these Monday shows, we normally kind of hand out your game ball for the player that stood out. It's a little bit easier to do that when it's coming off of a win, right, or not a blowout loss. But if you had to hand out a game ball to somebody, give me a positive here, Frank. Who's your positive, that positive light from that loss on Sunday?
Boy, you got to look hard, don't you? That was a hard one. I mean, even Logan Cook wasn't his normal self, and Brandon McManus didn't get many chances, so it's hard to find a guy. I will say this. I thought Devin Lloyd was all over the field and Oluokun. I thought those guys did all they could. It's hard to find a game ball here, Jamal, because you got lost 34-3. That means nobody played very well. But I thought those linebackers are holding up. I really do. I don't think the defense was terrible in this game. It was 10-3 late in the half. It was still just 13-3 at the half. At some point, your offense has to help you a little bit. You got now, look, the long play to Kittle that kind of broke it open wasn't good. But I think your offense has to help the cause. A lot of times when a team scores a lot of points, it's because the other team isn't on the field very long, and they've got a lot of opportunities to score those points. So defense. But I thought the linebackers, Oluokun and Lloyd, so put me down for both those guys. I thought they showed up as best they could in a tough game.
How about Trayvon Walker, Frank? I thought he got some good pressures on Brock Purdy. He was there, close, almost had a sack. I thought Trayvon had a decent day.
I did too. He's starting to come, isn't he, Jamal? He's coming around a little bit. You can see it starting to happen. The one pressure where A, he got held, and B, not only did he get held, but Purdy grounded the ball when he was falling down. That was a big-time play. Slowly, he's not going to do it as visibly as the true edge guys do. Josh Allen or some of the better pass rushers, T.J. Watt and some of these guys, they're going to do it more visibly. You're going to see the sacks out in the open. But Trayvon Walker affects the pocket. He affects the guy blocking him. He's a big physical guy. And I agree with you. He's starting to play better. He's not shy. He's not splashing yet, or flashing yet, I should say, but he's starting to play much better.
Keep in mind, a couple of his best games from last season came against the Tennessee Titans, so this could be a Trayvon Walker kind of week. We'll keep an eye on that and talk a little bit more about it on Friday night. That's our next Teal the Show. Come your way at 11:20 right here on Channel 4. Frank, thanks for being here. Thank you at home for tuning in. Good night, everybody, and go Jags.